Welcome everybody. In this video, we're gonna talk about the reality of living in a van in New York City. I'm Lucas and this is Maz. We've been together for 2 years now, and I just wanna cover some of the benefits and the challenges of living in a van full-time in a city environment.
What does MAZ stand for?
MAZ stands for Mobile Autonomous Zone. So when I was making the decision as far as what vehicle I wanna buy and build out, I wanted to do the box because it's more square. But one thing I didn't think about is actually getting in and out of my living space from the front. And what I have to do now is I have to get in through the passenger door and I have to duck into my space, as you'll see here soon. If I were to do it again, I would get a step van of some kind, thinking like UPS delivery truck or like a bread truck type thing, because when you step into a vehicle like that, you're already standing straight up and you're able to walk in and out freely. Whereas me, I've got to crouch to get into my space. All right, let's check it out. So this is how I have light inside of the van. I've got a couple battery operated lights in here. And that's because there are times when you're not gonna have power and you need to see. So this is my Goal Zero lantern. I really love this thing and I recommend it because you can, in a pinch, you can crank it to charge the battery on the inside, and the battery life lasts a pretty long time. So this is what I use just generally, but the rope lights here are what's powered off of my battery bank, and this is like a nice base level, just kind of ambient light sort of source. This here is a 1 foot quasar. It's sort of a movie light, but I really like this thing as well because it's pretty bright and it has long battery life. So one of the first things that people ask me about every time is, what do I do for the bathroom? How do I shower? How do I poop? How do I pee? Well, to be honest with you, I have a gym membership and that's usually where I shower. And as far as pooping and peeing, I kind of just find public spaces to go to. But in a pinch, if I really need to, I do have a composting toilet and a shower. As you can see, it's currently filled with stuff because this is the reality of living in the van. This is my heater. I've got some propane here, cat food and cat litter. She's not in here right now for video purposes, but I've got my Nature's Head composting toilet in here, and this is a sink base in here. That's the shower curtain comes up and goes on these hooks that I have here. But like I said, the reality is I just don't really use it because it's a little bit more of a hassle to use this stuff than it is to just go somewhere and shower and use the bathroom wherever else. I have a storage unit. I'll go to the storage unit and use their bathroom, or I'll go to the bagel shop and use their bathroom. A lot of public spaces is where I end up using the bathroom as opposed to in here. So even though I don't typically use the bathroom in the van, I'm not totally upset that I spent the money on having a toilet and a shower, because in an emergency situation, if I've got the shits, if I've really got to go and I don't have any other option, I can use the toilet, I can use the shower if I absolutely have to. So after the bathroom, one of the next questions, or the first question that a lot of people have, is how do I stay warm in the winter? Well, other people, they have their own separate heating systems built into their roof or whatever. For me, I didn't really feel like going through all of that. So what I do is I just have a propane tank here, and I've got this little Mr. Buddy heater, and I pretty much just run all my heat off the propane. And then I have my exhaust fan here. This is what I use to send out all the carbon monoxide so that I don't kill myself. This is also what I use in the summer to get all the heat out of the van. And it works pretty okay at that with the level of insulation that I have. I mean, I'm never really cold in here when I'm running the propane. It's plenty of heat. It's more than enough heat actually. But if I were to do it again, if I were to do it over, I would get a diesel heater because you can just install it under the floor and you don't have to worry about carbon monoxide. But you know, the other thing about installing a diesel heater is you have to install a separate fuel tank and a separate fuel pump so that it can run from that separate tank and pump. However, I do think it would be worth it just to turn on the heater and have it work and not worry about carbon monoxide poisoning. So this is my fridge, and if you could tell, it's almost a full size, but not quite. This is a Furrion brand, and I will say it's very low wattage and doesn't consume a lot of power. That I like. The only downfall, if you're in the market for a fridge for something like this, it kind of has cheap plastic parts that break off and stuff like that, which it's fine if you don't plan on doing a lot of reckless driving. But for me, I have broken off a few pieces and whatnot. I mean, it still functions very well as a fridge, keeps things cool, keeps things frozen, and in that regard, I like it a lot. But because the handle broke, I have to tie the thing back. I screwed in a metal handle because this part of it just doesn't work. It doesn't latch, it doesn't lock like it advertises. And that's my one big complaint about the fridge here. Mostly what I keep in here is just water, in case anything crazy happens. I do have my cans of Skyline chili, being a Cincinnati boy. Gotta have that around. You know, a little bit of hot sauce. But mostly I just keep my water in here in case I'm ever in a situation where I'm stuck. I can survive for a little while. So under the cabinet, I've got a few things packed away in here. This is my knife sharpener. I like to keep my knives very sharp. Sharp knives or safe knives. This is my Instapot little convection oven. It's a miniature thing, just plugs into the wall like a normal guy. And this is nice for just like reheating some leftovers and stuff like that. I mean, I can, you know, make toast in there or whatever else. I keep my pots and pans under here. And as far as a vacuum, I keep this DeWalt. It's a dry and wet vac. It's a nice thing to have around for little spills and messes. I thought it'd be really important to put in a spice rack. And I'll just have to move my general, you know, little junk spot, whatever. Shift that out of the way. And I can access my spices. Don't fall out. Okay. So, imperative for preparing a good meal in the van. I've got some tea in here, some specialty spices that I pick up along the road when I travel to different places. If they make their own special types of spices or whatever, I'll just pick that stuff up. And little containers are always a nice thing to have around too. So up here, I built a shelf with some apple crates, and these three back here are mostly books, but it is a little bit of overflow. I've got some hats. I've got a wool blanket up here. I've got some other little odds and ends in there, but this is mostly my books. You know, I like to read in my alone time, which I don't really have a lot of, but when I am in here, it's nice to have a little book nook. And up here I have more kitchen stuff. This is all blender. This is all blender stuff just for making smoothies and stuff like that. In here is mostly jars and storage containers and extra utensils and different things like that. So this is my bed. This is another thing that people are asked questions about, or they're surprised that I have. This is like a full-size bed. Under my bed, I have all my clothes just in crates like this. I've got pants and shorts. This is just full of socks. And yeah, I don't need to go through all of them, but this is my clothing and stuff like that. I've got towels and whatever. Now the bed up here, I made this little stool so I can hop up into the bed more easily. And then I've got this grab handle here to get up into my bed. And that's how I get up into here. And I can lay head to toe, full length. And this is my bed. Back here I've got a window. This is my curtain. I just use a blanket. And I can see out the windows if I need to. I do have a fully functional sink. I decided to go with just a small bar sink, as most of the time I'm just kind of brushing my teeth or washing my hands. I'm not really doing a whole lot of dishwashing in here. I still can if I need to. I've also got a water purifier directly attached to the sink, because most of the time I'm getting my water from outdoors, you know, just from a water spigot. So it's nice to have a filtered option directly accessible. Now down here, what I have, so I decided to go with a foot operated pump. This is the Whale Gusher, and it goes about 5 gallons per minute. So the reason I went with the manual foot operated pump is because sometimes you are going to be without power. It's just it's kind of inevitable, I think. So I think it's a good idea to just have an option for anything you're going to be using daily, to be able to use it without power. And that's why I went with the foot pump. And you know, in a pinch, I always have access to my water, and that's never something I have to worry about. So the next thing that people ask me about is, how do I cook, or do I cook? Luckily for me, I work a job that's 12 hours a day, and they feed us breakfast, lunch, and sometimes dinner. So Monday through Friday, I'm really not cooking all that much. And on the weekends, I kind of just go out to eat most of the time. But when I'm camping, or when I'm on trips, or when I'm not working, yeah, I do. And the way that I do that is I've got this little 2-burner stove here. Bring this out. And this is a nice thing. I could have installed a more permanent situation, but because I like to camp and I like to travel, and this is my first van build, I'm kind of considering this like a prototype for figuring out what it's like to actually live in a van, being as this is my first time. So I didn't really want to commit to anything too permanent. So that's why I went with the Camp Chef 2-burner. Once again, it just runs on propane, which I use for my heat as well. And that's fine. Once again, I open the roof vent and I'm able to cook on here. I've made curry, I've made steak, I've made breakfast. I mean, I can pretty much cook anything in here, and I do love to cook. So it was important for me to have some way of preparing meals. So another reason why I went with the Ford E350, you'll notice that this is just the single axle. It's not a dually, because with the dually you have a little bit over a foot of width added to the vehicle. And one thing I've noticed driving on New York City streets, places like Chicago or Philly, there's some really narrow streets that even with just this van, I find it pretty tough to drive through without hitting other things or other things hitting me. And if I had a dually, I don't know if I'd work so well on these narrow city streets. I would prefer to have a dually for camping excursions and traveling and things like that, but ultimately, living in the city, I do think that the single axle is the way to go. Okay, so as you can see, my garage is pretty packed full right now. That's because I like to do a lot of activities. I camp, I hike, I mountain bike, I ride my city bike. You know, I do manual labor, so I have a lot of my stuff with me. So in order to access this stuff, I do have to take a lot of these things out. This is my bike, I just take the wheels off. I do have a generator just in case I run out of power on my battery system here. I have 4 12-volt 100 amp hour Battle-Born batteries. These are lithium. So this is the Sterling 70 amp battery to battery charger. And what this does, it connects to my alternator and it charges my battery bank here. It charges my battery bank as I drive. So it only takes me about an hour and a half to go from 0 to full with this thing. I can't recommend it enough. It's saved me in a pinch, times when there's no sun, I have nowhere to charge my batteries, run out of gas, whatever. You know, this is nice to have as a passive charging system. So this is a 48 volt to 12 volt transformer. This allows me to go from my 48 volt battery bank to my 12 volt accessories. You can see here I've got a water heater that goes under the sink. I've got a fridge. There's a exhaust fan over there. I've got my water pump that is 12 volt as well. So all that's my 12 volt accessories. And over here you can see this is my solar charge controller, inverter, and battery charger. So this is 3000 watt inverter. This is what converts my 48 volt battery system into 120 volt AC, alternating current. So I use that to plug in blender or charge different things like laptop or phone, anything you'd plug into a wall. And this also is the solar charge controller. So with 1200 watts of solar up top, that goes into this here as well, and that's what regulates the charging of my battery system via solar. Then the other thing this allows me to do is it's a battery charger. So I have shore power coming out of this. It goes from here, it comes out and goes through the porthole, and I can just charge my batteries from any regular wall outlet that I can find in the city. So what I do for water, this is a 30-gallon fresh water tank. Honestly, most of the time I fill it up at a gas station or I drive by an apartment building, something like that, and I just fill it up from a hose, from a spigot, which I have here. I carry a flexible hose with me. Under the back tire here, I have an inlet for my water tank. That's usually where I fill it up at. One of the realities of living in a van is the fact that you do actually have to have a permanent address in order to be a US citizen or a citizen of New York City. So my friend, your cinematographer here, he lets me get my mail delivered to his apartment, and I just have to come pick it up every couple weeks, and that's how I get my mail. You can also get a P.O. box, but a P.O. box doesn't actually count as a permanent address. So this is the attic. It's just where I put my my general stuff. Overflow. I've got winter gear here and extra coats and stuff. All my camping stuff is over here. Tools and tents, tarps, shit like that. I've got like my office supplies and tax returns and all this other stuff like that over here. just like accessories, and I've got board games in here and camping chairs and just general overflow stuff in the attic. This is one thing that I also like about having the Unicell box on the chassis of the Econoline 350 is I've got this little place where I can just stuff extra things. One of the benefits of living in a van is that if you don't like your neighborhood or your neighbors, you can always just move somewhere else. Let's go. Never really meant to be a permanent situation for me. It was only ever meant to be temporary. And part of the motivation for doing the van was, you know, the quarantine. When everything got shut down, I just wanted the ability to be mobile and be wherever I want to be and not be where I don't. I'm someone who I like to camp, I like to travel, I like to hike and stuff like that, and it definitely saves me money on hotels, Airbnbs, stuff like that when I need to go somewhere. Whew, tight street. It can feel stifling, but at the same time, I don't have to worry about a landlord. I don't have to worry about, you know, someone telling me what I can and what I can't do with my living space. I can go wherever I want. If I decide I want to move to Atlanta or go somewhere else for work, I can do that, and I have done that. And that's been a really nice part of living in the van. Just that sense of freedom and autonomy. I'm not tied to any one place. You know, I do save money living in here. You trade space for freedom, comforts for autonomy. If you noticed that during the summer, I don't really have any kind of air conditioning. I just have the roof vent, the exhaust fan. You know, that's pretty much all I have for keeping myself cool. So from time to time, it does get kind of hot in the van. It's not really unbearable, but it's not necessarily comfortable either. The first year was definitely the hardest. There's a lot of growing pains involved, from going from a house, then to an apartment, then to a van. Yeah, there's just a lot of growing pains and things you have to get used to and adjusted to. Like I said earlier, it's just everything being a process. Like if you want to cook food, you got to bring out the stove and attach the propane and get all these things out, and then you got to put them all away. Thinking about water, power, batteries, all this sort of stuff that you just have to think about. You know, when I do laundry, I got to think about where I'm gonna park and which laundromats I can go to, and you know, there's just a lot of daily tasks that have added steps to them, and that can be difficult when you're first starting. I think that's why a lot of people tend to want so many more comforts when they go into van life. Now that I've been doing it for 2 years, it's kind of just become my new normal, and it's definitely, there are times when I crave just coming home and laying on the couch, or waking up and just hopping in the shower, or taking a bath, or wanting to stretch and work out, do yoga, or whatever stuff like that it just requires space. So if you're gonna do something like this, you just kind of have to keep in mind that the world now becomes your home. You know, the city that you're living in, the state that you're living in, the amenities that your city offers. You know, you become much more tied to being a part of wherever it is that you're living, and so that's just something that people should be mindful of. And in that way, I do feel a little bit more connected to my neighborhoods, you know, the places where I tend to park. I know where my spots are, and I've kind of developed my own groove. Okay, this is the end of the video. It started to snow outside, so we're not trying to be out too much longer. In conclusion, I hope that I was able to offer some clarity on the realities of living in a van. You saw some of the challenges, heard some of the challenges, that, you know, it's not all adventure beaches, running into lakes with your dog and stuff like that. You know, that your day-to-day, especially living in a city like New York, it's not the easiest thing. So it's not really for everybody. For most people, it's just more of like an adventure vehicle, and that's fine, you know. So I hope that I helped see what it's like a day in the life, a week in the life of living in a van, full-time in a city. Thank you for watching.